First off, we start here in Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu has called on state governors to deepen unity and extend development to the grassroots, emphasizing the need for coordinated action across Nigeria. He made the appeal during an interfaith breaking of fast at the presidential villa in Abuja on Monday, while assuring Nigerians that the country is emerging from economic and security challenges. Our State House correspondent Adesoa Omoran reports.
At the presidential banquet hall, governors from across Nigeria gathered to break the day's fast with President Tinubu. Now in its third year under the administration, the event coincides with both Ramadan and the Christian Lenten season. The symbolism, the president says, reflects unity, sacrifice, and shared responsibility. Beyond the symbolism, Tinubu expresses confidence in Nigeria's direction, insisting he is determined to rescue the country despite mixed reactions to his policies, and reiterating his push for state police.
There are a lot of complaints and commendations coming from all angles. They will come from this at me too. But as long as we brace together and we move together and determined to rescue this country, the best is yet to come to Nigeria. We're out of the woods. We're out of the dark tunnel of uncertainty. The economy is showing up. Let's help those unemployed. What I promise you is not to be postponed. We will establish state police to combat the insecurity.
He further appeals to the governors to deliver governance more effectively to the grassroots.
To all of you, I'm very, very grateful because we've seen progress. We've seen commitment to duty. But please, I appeal again, let's go further to embrace the downtrodden, the young ones, and all the supporters. Be all encompassing, and let's spread the development opportunity across to the grassroots.
Speaking on behalf of his colleagues, Imo State Governor describes the gathering as divinely inspired and commends Tinubu's support for subnational governments.
I have been around for some time now, playing politics, but never in the history of this country have we had the opportunity of removing political bickerings, closing ranks with the president and governors, allowing harmonious situation in our political environment to travel. You've done this. You've seen the subnationals as partners in progress. You've shared your good times with governors. You have also discussed your challenges with governors.
After the ceremony, the governors further stressed the significance of the visit.
It is once in every 33 years you will see a coincidence of Christian fasting and Muslim fasting at the same time. So this year is a special way, and what it teaches us is that religious and ethnic issues should not divide us, that we need to be more united as a country to be able to develop our country. So the president has shown good partnership between himself and governors, and we are here also to reciprocate that gesture. We are working with him in good faith to the glory of God so Nigeria can be better.
In the coming days, the president is expected to engage with leaders across government and the country, using the platform to reinforce unity, coordination, and the push for nationwide reforms. Adesoa Omoran, Arise News.
Thank you, Adeswa. The Debt Management Office, DMO, has revealed that Nigeria's 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, incurred a combined debt of 4.002 trillion naira as of 30th September 2025. The latest figures released by the DMO show that the subnational debt represents 2.61% of Nigeria's total public debt, which stood at 153.29 trillion naira within the same period. According to the data, debt obligations are heavily concentrated among a handful of states, with 10 states accounting for 67% of the total subnational debt, amounting to 2.68 trillion naira. Lagos State emerged as the most indebted state with 1.045 trillion naira, representing about 26% of the total debt owed by all states and the Federal Capital Territory. A distant second is River State, with a debt stock of 381.205 billion naira, followed by Delta State at 247.171 billion naira. Enugu State came fourth with a debt profile of 194.715 billion naira, while Ogun and Bauchi State are indebted to the tune of 168.093 billion naira and 158.197 billion naira, respectively. Moving on, former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai has filed a 1 billion naira suit against the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission over the alleged unlawful raid on his Abuja residence. Through his lawyer, Oluwole Yamu, SAN, El-Rufai is asking the Federal High Court to nullify the search warrant issued on February 4, describing it as defective, vague and unconstitutional. The suit names the ICPC, a Chief Magistrate of the FCT, the Inspector General of Police, and the Attorney General of the Federation as respondents. El-Rufai argues that the raid violated his rights to dignity, liberty, fair hearing, and privacy. He is seeking court orders restraining authorities from using items seized during the operation, the immediate return of his property, and 1 billion naira in damages for alleged trespass, unlawful seizure, and psychological trauma. The case is yet to be assigned to a judge. Moving on, flight operations have resumed at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport at a temporary shutdown caused by a fire incident. The Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, FAN, says the airspace was closed briefly as safety measure, but operations restarted once the fire was contained. Officials confirmed that flights are now departing and arriving. FAN also activated contingency plans, including setting up a temporary remote control tower to support operations. Emergency agencies, including national and state responders, assisted in managing the situation as authorities worked to ensure continued safety. And now to some good news. Arise News Channel will mark International Women's Day 2026 with a celebration of 100 of Africa's most accomplished and influential women at the Africa Women of Impact Awards, a high-level recognition platform spotlighting leadership across governance, business, law, healthcare, technology, and the creative industries. According to the official list of final awardees, the honorees reflect a cross-section of African excellence with strong representation from Nigeria alongside leaders from South Africa, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, Mauritius, Sudan, Cote d'Ivoire, Niger, as well as accomplished African women in other parts of the world. Besides, the awards scheduled for March 8, 2026 will bring together women whose works have shaped institutions, driven enterprise, and influenced policy both on the continent and globally. In convening 100 leaders under one platform, Arise is positioning the Africa Women of Impact Awards as a benchmark recognition for excellence on the continent. Arise's decision to unveil the 100 Women of Impact list on International Women's Day will align the event with a global movement advocating gender equality and women's empowerment. Well, congratulations to all the 100 global women, African women of impact. really great to see Arise leading on this. We've often talked about the importance of having women at the forefront of decision-making and recognizing the great work that not just Nigerian women, but African women across the world have done. And so this is their time of honor and their moment of glory on the 8th of March, 2026 here in Lagos, Nigeria. El-Rufai, your take on this story and as well as other stories.
You know, I don't know how Prince Nduka Baibana does it, but he has his head, put on properly, always innovative ideas ahead of the mark every time. The Arise Women's Award, Licky, Prize Play, and all of these great, offshoots of Arise. And it just shows that we must have to celebrate the integral role women play in our society and the world in general. And look at the list. It's a very rich compendium. A cross-section of women across every sector, every industry. And you can see some women doing quite well there. I mean, I think my eye caught on the list Madam Shabalala, the South African candidates, gunning for AFDB. I remember I interviewed her then when all of that race was on. And I'm really thrilled about this. I mean, we had Mosaku there before she did well at the BAFTAs, with Sinners and all of that. So congratulations to all these great women out there. The second story making the rounds. Yes, President Tinubu having an iftar dinner, which is a good one. And he called for hope, called for solidarity, told the state governments that they are partners in progress. I mean, he told the right news, but I disagree with the framing or the capturing of what was said. Because when they say Nigeria is out of the woods, I do not see us being out of the wood. I see us, in fact, being in firewood. I mean, let's not look at some wins. Oh, okay, the stock market win. Yes, appreciated. Nigerian stock market doing quite well. Yeah, kudos to him on that. The forex situation, yes, okay. But let's look at the core economy. Yesterday, I was talking to a team of farmers that said because of the importation of food this government is doing, that they are losing their capital and their revenue. It is so hard for them to survive. It is so bad now to be a farmer in this country at this point in time. They can hardly get people to take their offtake. He was talking about security. Security that people were killed recently. Another 7 were hurt. Around Barkeladi local government area were killed. Then the damning story that came out, that some newspaper outlets are coming out to say that the government actually paid ransom. Until today, they've not even been able to respond to it. And this is not the first time. El-Rufai also made those allegations against the Kaduna State government. So we are hearing all of this, and the Kaduna State government report by saying, okay, you should provide its evidence. We are increasingly hearing payment of ransom. And Ayo, to answer your question, that's why they will never kill those bandits in the bush in the negotiation when they are rescuing people. That's why they should come out and respond to it. So is it the massive insecurity happening all over the country? Is it the fact that the government cannot even pay for capital expenditure of the budget? 36 million out of over 200 billion for health? Other sectors didn't even get anything? Is it the encumbrance of the Genco that the government now is trying to manipulate the Genco? You saw the story that came out yesterday. I've called Madam Joy Ogaji. He said the story is false. That the federal government said that they've done an audit and the over 6 point something trillion for the Genco has been released to 2.8 trillion. In fact, she has told me to challenge the government that who did that audit? These are the things that stifle investor confidence. Before now, have we not had cases, and I hear from my sources around the Genco how they use EFCC to harass them? These are the things they say. All of a sudden, the next thing is that they're having Joe Ajero attack them, all because they're asking for their money. So many encumbrances like that, and that's why when you say we're not out of the woods. We are not out of the woods. In fact, we are lost in the hood. That's what a lot of people are complaining about in the country. Out of the woods, we had elections that we found were filled with mutilations. Out of the woods, farmers can't go about their livelihood. If insecurity is not hampering them, government importing food is hampering them. So what are we saying we are using to support the very poor amongst us? So let's stop deceiving ourselves, please. We want this country to work. We all want it to work. In fact, you don't want it to work as quickly as I want it to work. But we also have to set ourselves straight. And integrity and honesty has to be the order of the day. We're happy, casualties came out of the fire incident at the airport, but we need to be able to see an investigation. What happened? What truly transpired? We are out of the woods. The so-called state government that they said they are giving a lot of money, they are owing them. Look at the debt Lagos State is owing alone. Over $1 trillion. 26% of the total debt states are owing. But at the same time, we are saying we are giving them more money. So what are they doing with the money? The subnationals too have to be blamed. And we are out of the woods. Which woods are we out of?
All right. Okay.
Is it Robin Hood?
All right. Dr. Abati, your take on these stories this morning.
Okay, first, the president had the breaking of fast, the third consecutive one with governors from the states. 20 governors were present, 2 deputy governors were in attendance, and then top government officials. At a meeting, a breaking of fast meeting, where the president talked about unity, sacrifice, inclusivity, and how his administration has been able to take Nigeria out of the woods. Governors also spoke. Agbu Kefas of Taraba State offered a prayer. Governor Hope Uzodinma also made a speech on behalf of the governors. The president promised that the best is yet to come, and that we had turned the corner, or we are out of the woods. Now, that may be the most controversial statement of the evening. What is not controversial is that this is the usual process for governors, for presidents. During the season of Ramadan, they break fast with categories of persons. Tomorrow, it may even be a rice team that will be invited to come and break fast with the president. That's how it goes. Because it's a season of unity, of inclusivity, of goodwill, of being nice to the neighbor. So in terms of the framework behind the whole idea, it's just basic procedure, and it is well in order that the president uses the period to identify with not just Muslims, but also Christians, because Christians are also going there very shortly, I believe, to break fast with the president. The 2 seasons are coinciding, and which Governor Hope Uzodinma identified correctly to say that the overlap between Christianity and the Muslim religion, we don't even know whether African traditional religion are also fasting during this period. So that in itself, in terms of framework, is perfectly in order. But of course, the question you can raise is the question raised by Rufai, that when you say we are out of the woods, we're doing better, how are we doing better? The professionals, the professional economists like Dr. Ayof Teriba, like Mr. Rewani, they say reform takes time before you people begin to pluck the benefits. But it's taking too much a long time. I've been hearing that phrase from the professionals for about a year now. Nigerians are impatient. They want the dividends of democracy to begin to drop like a manna from heaven. How soon remains the question. But beyond that, the subnational debt, the DMO, Department of Debt Management Office, says the states, the subnationals, are owing up to about 4 trillion. Now, most of those debts came from the World Bank, came from the African Development Bank, who out of generosity has been supporting Nigeria, and also Afrism. I think Afrism Bank, where we had Professor Benedict Urama, patriots in ADB, patriots, another patriot in Afrism Bank, supporting the Nigerian government, and also, expanding initiatives across Africa. Dr. Akinwumi Adesina had something he called the high priority fives, just to move Africa forward. But Nigerian governors took advantage of all these, overtures from the World Bank, the ADB, and Afreximbank, and they've chalked up to 4 trillion naira. The question to ask is, what have they done with that 4 trillion? The DMO is in the story because DMO guarantees on behalf of the federal government these loans that the subnationals take. And then now the same DMO is saying, well, this is how much the subnationals are owing. It's not just the federal government borrowing money. The states are heavily indebted. Ask the question, therefore, subsequently, what are these states doing with the money? The big issue, as pointed out by DMO, is that a state cannot take more than 50% of its revenue. But many of these our states, they have overborrowed. The principle in law is that, as we have seen in the Nestor case and in other cases, is that when you borrow, you pay. It's not these international financial institutions, they are not charity organizations. The obligation is for you to pay when you take loan. And I think here we then talk about the responsibility of states. Why are Nigerian states borrowing? We should be laying the emphasis on productivity. Many of these states can be productive centers, not borrowing centers. Productivity is what we must emphasize for these states of Nigeria, as we had in the First Republic, when the various regions, Western, Northern, and Eastern region, were competing among themselves in terms of initiatives, in terms of productivity. These state governments and the FCT that we have, they just rely on a beggarly disposition, relying on Section 162 just to collect money under federal allocation. Now that President Tinubu has given Executive Order number 9, they are going to collect more money. And our concern as the long-suffering people of Nigeria is that what do they do about this money? All these governors, they have long convoys, they have extravagant show at the expense of the people. Money, all these monies are borrowed for education, for health, particularly, and maybe also for agriculture. Now, what is the state of all these issues in all the states? So state governments need to be disciplined. Discipline is the main issue. Without a disciplined subnational, you just keep hearing that they are owing money, and then they will keep transferring, the indignity of a debtor economy in the various states. And these are states that are well endowed, but nobody worries about productivity. They just worry about conspicuous consumption. Finally, on the case by Nasir El-Rufai, well, every individual under the law has the right to put in enforcement of fundamental human rights suits. So it is perfectly within the right of Nasir El-Rufai, having been detained since, I think, February 19 by the ICPC on the grounds of investigations that are continuing, to now say, his rights have been violated under sections 34, 35, 36, 37 of the 1999 Constitution, dealing serially with his dignity of the human person, his right to privacy, his right also to fair hearing under sections 35 and 36 thereof. Now, however, the matter now being in court, and the Chief Magistrate of the Magistrate Court of the Federal Capital Territory, the AGF, and the ICPC, and, having been listed as respondents in the matter may now appear sub judice. The court will have to determine, so we cannot make declarative statements on what will happen in the suit that has been filed by Nasir El-Rufai's lawyer. But two questions can be legitimately raised. The point made by the counsel that the search warrant was fundamentally defective. Okay, what does that mean? It means, was it properly ordered? Was it wrongly procured? These are the kind of questions that the court will be looking into. The court will also look at the 7 prayers that have been raised, put before the court by Nasir El-Rufai and his counsel. And it says, whatever documents have been seized should be returned, cannot be used against him in a court of law, and that he should be paid damages for the violation of his fundamental rights under the aforementioned sections of the court. Those are the issues. But the only comment that we can make is that in all of these matters, it is important that due process is followed. Due process, very important. That's all we can say, the least, without inquiring into the details of the matter that is now before the court of law.
Absolutely, you're right. Again, I'd like to highlight the African Women of Impact 2026 Award, hosted by Arise News on International Women's Day, which is March. By the way, for those who don't know, March is the month of women, so just get ready for that right now. But I mean, it's more serious than just a celebration. It's an acknowledgement and recognition of the work of women of African descent across the world who have contributed significantly in various spheres of influence. And I believe that this is such a great move. If you look at the names, it's very difficult to question the competencies and achievements of these women. Professor Afolabi Bosede has done significant work in the area of obstetrics and gynecology in Nigeria. Some breakthroughs in that regard. Who can question Mrs. Ibuka Woshika and a few others on that. Miss Ola Brown, you can see her on the screen. A number of and our very own Onikepo Braithwaite as well. Excellent women who have shown distinct track record in the course of their work, and I think it's such a great idea and great move by the Arise News family to recognize them publicly. Tara Feladroto, you're on there. And of course, from beauty, business, energy, governance, health, different areas. And so we look forward to really making the ovation really loud on the 8th of March, which happens to be a Sunday, which is also International Women's Day. All right, we'll definitely be bringing you more updates on that. And of course, on the throughout the day on Arise News, you'll be seeing a lot more information around the women who will be recognized. 100 leading African women. All right, having done that, let me talk about the fire incident. And when I talk about the fire incident at the MMA yesterday, and the significance of which is that this is about the 4th significant fire incident at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, particularly Terminal 1, which is the old international terminal. There we see the reports. We've had September 2023, March and April of 2024, and now yesterday. And perhaps this is the reason, a good justification for the ongoing works to tear down and rebuild Terminal 1 based on some of the archaic infrastructure, some of which are rotten already, and perhaps might have given rise to these fire incidents we've seen, even though the MD of FAN, who happens to be another woman of repute, Mrs. Olubumi Kuku, who's talked about the fact that they haven't established the real cause of the fire yesterday. But like you said, Rufai, it is pertinent to investigate and understand why this happened with the view to prevent such incidents from happening. There were a few disruptions to flights yesterday. I know that about 3 international flights had to be diverted, but thankfully, very quickly, they were able to restore flights. The flight to Addis Ababa taking off last night. And so the kudos was given to emergency responders and how they were able to contain that significant fire yesterday. It's important to highlight when, the work is done and done well in order to avoid much more, terrible disasters here in Nigeria. To the best of our, as at press time, about 6 people are said to have sustained injuries. Thankfully, no fatalities are recorded. And again, this was due to emergency protocols being adhered to and undertaken by emergency responders when that happened. So no panic. Flights have resumed. Some diversions yesterday, but now flights have resumed at MMIA. But we do look forward to seeing a report on what happened and how, with a view to preventing it in the future. Now, the key story for this morning, which is the headline story on this day newspaper yesterday, which is the breaking of fast hosted by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as part of the Ramadan fast, breaking of fast, and also coinciding, of course, with Lent season happening at the same time. But beyond the food and camaraderie that you can see in that footage was what was being said. And let me talk about even the context with regards to this interfaith meeting came as a background to what we see a number of times when we see announcements around the economy is bouncing back. The truth is that if you ask the question on paper, macroeconomically speaking, is the economy now at the stage of stabilization? The numbers look good. If you look at the inflation numbers, the GDP growth projected for 2026, 4.3 to 4.4%, having done, close to 4% in the last quarter. If you look at inflation numbers, they've been it's come down 10 consecutive months, and we have the MPC meeting this week. There are talks around the fact that we might see interest rates, down by basis points in the next at the MPC, again talking about how much they've been able to tame inflation, at least in the last few months. You can look at headline inflation as well, look at it having, come down. But the most important thing for many Nigerians when we talk about economic stabilization is what it means microeconomically, what it means for the man on the street. And for a number of Nigerians who want to hold on to this hope that the president is, talking about a number of times, is that has life become better for a number of people? Unfortunately, the answer still remains no. Indeed, this is getting to this is the penultimate year of this administration as they come to the end of the first year in administration, and we've been told from the first day of being sworn in that Nigerians ought to be patient. This is childbearing; it will come with pains, but very soon we'll see the dividends. In fact, the timeline given was 2 years. This is now the third year, and unfortunately, Nigerians are still suffering the hardship of poverty and an unfortunate lack of access to basic amenities, including food. And so the question is, where is the disconnect? Why are these macroeconomic numbers not translating to microeconomic gains where the Nigerian people, where the ordinary Nigerian can feel the impact of the weight of good governance under the Tinubu administration? At what point would we agree that numbers are good, but if it doesn't translate to the realities of the Nigerian people, then it doesn't mean anything for a number of people? Because we can come out and talk about it and it's good, but if people do not feel it in how they can spend on education for their children, how they can afford basic health care, how they can put food on their table, how they can afford housing and put a roof over their head, then it is absolutely nothing. And so we can have the elite eat good food during Ramadan, breaking of fast, not appreciating or connecting with the realities of the people on the ground. And I say this against the backdrop of what he said and what some of the governors said, that, oh, look at interfaith, we are doing well. And I say this with regards to optics, but not real substance. This is against the backdrop of a very significant report released by Rep. Riley Moore as regards Christian genocide. So on one hand, they're saying the reality is that Nigeria is one of the most difficult places to practice your religion freely as a Christian. And on the other hand, we see the elite sitting down and saying, no, because we can sit together around the table to break fast, there's, strong faith connectivity. There's a disconnect. And when we talk about reality, it's not about optics or sounding the right bites. What we want to see is action being seen, especially in the lives of the ordinary Nigerians, whether it be security, economy, faith, across all boards. What we want to see, indeed, is actual, tangible results and not just optics and rhetorics.